you would go by their house. And John Gray and Eleanor Gray were really delightful people who lived on Brattle Street, and she was the one who married Henry Tudor. And so they were all cousins, you know, growing up. I mean, not their children were cousins growing up there, and all the land, you know, was all owned by the family. This is a strange thing. This is the original copy that she gave me, and if you look on the last page, there's a big blot down on the left, or the on the last on the last page.
5 isn't the last page. That's the last page, isn't it? 5.
Huh. Well, on this copy, anyway, there is a big. I just saw it. Where is it? Yeah, it's down. It's
Oh, a seal.
a seal. Okay, this was a red seal made with a seal ring, and it is the seal of the
Penny book.
of the Tudors
Okay, yeah.
from Penmanid.
Right.
But that was on a seal ring that Henry Tudor had that had been passed down. So it pretty well establishes.
Connection, yeah.
But that on this, on this copy, the seal sat here, and it seems to have fallen off and disappeared, and it's not in that folder. It was right here when I copied this.
Oh, it just broke off.
It must have broken
dried
off,
out.
yeah, so that's too bad.
Oh.
Well, anyway.
Well, that's interesting. You know, the...
If you want a copy of this, this
Yeah.
is just sort of a distillation, not of Eleanor's story, but just of Penmanid and the Tudor connection.
Okay. Yeah,
I was so upset when they called the daughter's thing White Bread Alley, because we wouldn't, there was no such thing as white bread in our house. And I had to send all over the place to get whole wheat. And,
right.
anyway.
Well, the Garland biography of the Northern Branch written by James Gray Garland. So I wonder if those Gray family
Well, all those Bostonians were
connected somehow.
You know, they were all the sort of Boston elite,
Right.
the Cabots and the Briggses and so forth. And the L. Vernon Briggs was Eleanor's grandfather, great-grandfather, well, whatever. So it's all tied up one way or another. Anyway.
So, so when Natasha Tudor, just so I get the story straight, she sent you to...
Oh, you must go see Cousin Elsa.
Elsa, right.
So we got to hang out, and I don't remember how we had I mean, I'm always so reluctant to, and shy, so Dad must have gotten in touch with her, and she lived in what we used to call the Pink Schmink Colonial, just as you head down towards the Middle Hancock Road. There was a beautiful old house which he painted pink to the horror of townspeople, but it was a beautiful pink. Anyway, you know, not wild and crazy. And we were living over in the Leyland house on Old Antrim Road. We were renting that house. Well, first we came to Peterborough and found a house there to rent on the end of the old Dublin Road in Peterborough. And we lived there for 3 months, and then I went to Boston to have Tara and came back, and we had rented Dorothy Leyland's house. Which is a beautiful old brick house up on the old Antrim Road. Anyway, she...
You went to Boston to have Tara because the hospitals here weren't good
No,
enough?
because I couldn't find any doctor who would agree to let me have natural childbirth. In those days, if you were pregnant and going to have a baby, when you went into labor, they clamped something on your head and knocked you out. And for many reasons, but because it was also very dangerous for the baby to, and many blue babies were born unable to breathe, and who died that way. And I was determined not to have any anesthesia, but to have the child naturally. And I'd read a book called Natural Childbirth by some English doctor, and I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And I don't know if I was saying this, but part of our business of coming to the country and living here was to do things the way we thought was right, rather than the conventional accepted way. And so we were sort of making an experiment out of lots of things. Ridiculously enough, so much of the stuff that we did and were interested in, other generations had done, but progress had changed things. You snuff out a woman. Women don't nurse their babies. You eat processed chemical foods and all that kind of stuff. And Dad and I didn't want to have anything to do with that. We wanted to live our lives and bring up our family in ways that seemed proper to us. And
were there particular naturalists or authors that were people that you knew that were kind of inspiring you in this way?
Not that we knew, but I mean, someone like Thoreau, of course, was a big influence. I mean, we didn't begin to live the simple life that Thoreau did, but it was pretty. We didn't have a lot of luxuries or things that were unnecessary in our lives. But the reason Tara was born in Boston was that I could not find a doctor in the Monadnock area who would agree to let me have my child naturally. And so Skippy Ingersoll, who was a nurse, found a doctor in Boston, a doctor named Ruby Jackson, a wonderful woman doctor. And it wasn't that she was a big exponent, a supporter of natural childbirth, but she said, if you want to have your baby that way, I will support you in doing it. And she was really wonderful. We would go down to Boston and I would have a checkup and she would explain things to me. And it wasn't the doctor as the tyrant telling you what to do. And so about a week before Tara was due, at that point we were living in this wonderful house in a wonderful place in Peterborough, where the snow was up to here, and it was really just very magical. And we packed up the house and left it, cleaned it all up, packed up all our belongings, and had rented this house in Hancock, where Dorothy Leyland was going off to follow the route of Alexander the Great in a Volkswagen. If I'm repeating myself, please stop me. But anyway,
every once in a while there's a crossover,
but we had not lived in that house.
Yeah.
But about a week before Tara was due, we went down to Boston and we stayed in Aunt Hope's apartment in Louisville Square. What is it called?
In Cambridge?
No,
or
in Boston.
In Boston. I'm not sure.
Lewisburg Square.
Okay.
And because Aunt Hope was living in Cape Cod.
Is that on Beacon Hill or where is that?
Yeah, it's on halfway down Chestnut Street.
Yeah.
And she had an apartment, always kept an apartment there. And so we stayed there for about a week. And then Tara was born in a hospital in Boston. I guess it was called the Boston Lying In. And again, that was kind of an adventure, because my doctor said, you can have the baby without any